What is going on, guys? Jesse504 here, bringing you the PBA Season 2 Power Rankings. And so these are the post-draft Power Rankings. Me, Clouds, and Vini all worked on them. And then we averaged our lists and we came to this ordering. Just a couple notes. We each had our own reasons to put teams where we did. We all graded on like a separate scale. I know Vinny used some pros and cons. I just kind of picked a team and I just said, well, which teams are above, which teams are below, and then I repeated that process. So that was kind of where my thought process was at. But yeah, let's just get right into it. So coming in at number 16, we have the Washington Blizzards. So this draft, first pick overall, grabbed Rayquazas, which is pretty scary. But now it almost seems like everyone has to have like a water absorb mon for Rayquazas, which almost, I mean, it's intimidating, yeah, but like now your main threat is countered. It also has Cobalion, which is a pretty solid rocker. Mega Beedrill, fast and hits hard, but no defense at all. Ditto, everyone wants Ditto, it's just a great mon. Cresselia's fat, same with Sylveon. That forms a nice little defensive pairing. But there isn't really too much synergy for Rayquazas, like no webs, no tailwind support really. And then there isn't really too much special breaking going on outside of maybe the Sylveon, but other than that, not too much. Gligar and Sandslash kind of form like a little bit of an ice weakness, but they're fine hazard removal. Lilligant, I just don't see it coming too often. But there's some solid offense, some solid defense. Just not too much synergy kind of holding the team back. And up next, we got the Memphis Primeapes. And this team is pretty solid. Mega Aerodactyl is fast, hits hard, like a lot of these Megas are. They just are fast. They come in, they hit hard. Also got Blacephalon, which is one of my favorite mons. I like it. Great special breaker to pair with the Mega Aerodactyl. Unfortunately, has a pretty lackluster move pool, which kind of holds it back. But it has some speed passing into these massive wall breakers with Scolipede, because we do allow speed baton pass, and so Scolipede just fills that role perfectly. Can pass into the Mega Aerodactyls to allow it to outspeed some Scarfers, can pass it into the Blacephalon, so that thing doesn't need to run Scarf. Can pass into the Haxorus, that thing doesn't need to set up with Dragon Dances. Can pass into the Rachi for better flinch hacks. The defensive core is decent. Piloswine is a great defensive mon. Alcremie is pretty solid, but not really too much outside of that. Jirachi is probably going to have to get forced into a defensive role most weeks, which is not really what you want, other than Piloswine, that's kind of the most defensive mon, and then kind of struggles to clean. It can like break walls, but oftentimes it'll get revenge killed, and priority kind of just hurts this team a lot. Outside of Haxorus, none of the really fast mons have too great of priority. And then obviously Mega Aerodactyl, it's a rocker and defogger, but it doesn't really want to do that. And there's not too much hazard outside of that, really, as far as like removal goes, that really wants to run it. And that's kind of just what I saw looking at that team. Up next, at number 14, we got the Miami Hat. Strong offensively with Mega Altaria, although that thing did lose return. Zeraora and then Slowbro, that's a great new mon for DLC. Getting access to Body Press and Nasty Plot, those both help it a lot. Runa Regis is a great support mon, able to run Keyspike, Stealth Rock, Memento. Meloetta is kind of slept on, but it's a solid mon. Berserker is a weird steel type. It's not very defensive, which is kind of what you want out of your steel type normally, but it fulfills its role as like just a choice band click buttons with Tough Claws kind of mon. Scyther is pretty solid. Scarfer or Focus Sash or Heavy Duty Boots, those are all great options on it. It's pretty fast and hits kind of hard, so great tier 5 pickup in my opinion. Incineroar, Breloom, Nihilego, those are all pretty solid mons. Incineroar is great momentum mon with the Intimidate, and then U-turn or Parting Shot out. Breloom can click Spore, put something to sleep, which is always helpful, and then Nihilego can click Rocks and is also just kind of fast. But the main cons for this team is that there's really not too many stealth rockers other than Nihilego and Runaregis. It kind of forces Runaregis to come every week because I don't think Nihilego wants to run rocks too often. And it's kind of just like lacking the support for the Mega Altaria other than like really the Breloom putting something to sleep. That's kind of its only option to really set up safely. Same with like Zeraora with Bulk Up. So those options definitely exist, but they're not too easy to come by. And up next, we got the Seattle Serperiors, coached by Pulsie. Mega Steelix, great with the body press. That's something that you have to be aware of. The ability isn't really going to come in clutch with the Sand Force, not going to end up helping it too much, no sand. And then Blou Heatran forms a great core, but Mega Steelix plus Heatran kind of forms, and Chansey, they all form a kind of fighting weakness. Three waters that kind of do pretty similar things in the Pyukumuku, the Mantine, and the Yellow Momola. They're to take hits, but it kind of just forms kind of an electric weakness, which kind of hurts. Not to mention that Xatu's also there for that. Torterra doesn't really have great synergy with Bulu. So Bulu kind of, in my opinion, hurts the team with the grassy terrain because Mega Steelix and Torterra can't click Earthquake as easily anymore, and Heatran can't click Earth Power quite as easily anymore. But it's still strong, and Xatu's there to magic bounce away the hazards. But then Shedinja, in my opinion, is kind of a wasted mon. And then Komao is very versatile, gets to do what it wants on offense. But other than that, and the Mega Steelix, those are kind of your most offensive pieces, along with the Bulu, which are all physical unless the Komoa wants to go special. But it's a predominantly physically attacking team, which is something that is easily played around if they have one physical wall that can just sponge hits from the team. Forces Heatran maybe into a more offensive role that doesn't quite want to fill as a special attacker, or forces Komoa to go with the special option, which isn't bad, but it's not quite as good as like maybe you want to run sub Belly Drum Komoa one week, but they're just rocking some great physical walls, and so that just makes it much harder. But up next, number 12, the Portland Timburrs, coached by NotShadykid. Mega Kangaskhan, great even without Seismic Toss, gets pretty much Power Up Punch freely, which is like effectively a 50 base power move and a Sword Stance put in one. If a Ghost type switches in, though, it does get negated. Latias, pretty strong, and pairs kind of well with Stack Attacka, able to be immune to the ground moves, resist the fighting moves, and KO them back. So that's a nice pair right there. Araquanid can set webs, which helps Mega Kangaskhan and Latias at like those kind of middling speeds. Same with Mamoswine, that likes a boost. Tangrowth is a solid defensive piece, and Electros is levitating again, which helps out that Stack Attacka. So even though this team doesn't have a too reliable of a flying type, it has Drifblim, but that's not perfect. It still is able to help out the Stack Attacka pretty well. Able to fire off that new body press, which helps it out a lot. So yeah, many great wall breakers here, but limited rockers, and the rockers that he does have don't really even want to run rocks all the time, which kind of hurts the team. Although Araquanid can run webs, which is pretty helpful, but it could use a little more support, maybe like with Trick Room to help the Stack Attacka, but it doesn't really have that. Yeah, so it's kind of like a team. It's kind of torn in two. It doesn't really know what it wants to do. Like, could be webs offense, then it just has some really slow things that don't even benefit from webs at all. So up next, at number 11, the Utah Weez. This team, I kind of like the draft strategy here of just grabbing a bunch of Tier 3 and Tier 2 Fremons that are all basically, you have a ton of threats that you have to prep for with the Mega Pinsir, Necrozma, Bisharp, Dracozolt, Serena, Polteageist, Staraptor, and then Rabombi's there to set webs, which this team does benefit from. Dracozolt really likes webs, Mega Pinsir likes webs, Polteageist even likes webs. Golisopod is there to set spikes with emergency exit. It can be pretty solid, as well as first impression. Snorlax is a really solid wall that many teams might struggle to break. And then Heatmore, I don't really know what it does in my opinion, but it's there, it can help. But kind of the team, it lacks a little bit of synergy. And the typings aren't very diverse. Got a couple bug types with the Mega Pinsir, the Rabombi, and the Golisopod, plus the Heatmore. Kind of emphasizes the team's weakness to rocks. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind, is that you have to keep the hazards off, but the hazard control isn't too great. You have Bisharp to punish Defog, but you kind of want your opponent to be clicking Defog to get rid of the rocks. So by making them not even want to run Defog, it's not that great, because Serena's mostly the hazard control option. Nothing else really wants to run it. So that's just kind of why this team is ranked so low, even with all of those threats. And up next, number 10, we got the Toronto Maple Nuzleafs, coached by EpicPants. This team is hyper offense with Coco Lucha pretty freely. Ended up getting Coco super late, and then adding Hawlucha to that really helps out. And then the Excadrill is there as well. But other than that, the team is kind of Mega Venusaur is going to be forced into a defensive role a lot. Like, that thing's going to be sponging hits. I feel like Arcanine's also going to be forced into a defensive role. And Arcanine, I feel like, isn't as great as people think it is. It's kind of just one of those mons that's, yeah, it's a favorite, which is why it gets picked up a lot, but it's not quite as good as people like to think it is. Cursula is there to punish Trick Room, which I think is a pretty smart pickup. Also can set rocks because nothing else really wants to run them, although Excadrill can do that pretty well. Masquerain doesn't really fit the team. I don't think it needs webs, and so I don't see it coming really ever. Kyurem is a strong special breaker, which this team kind of needed. Now that Coco's going to be running physical every week, Hawlucha's going to be physical every week. Kyurem's kind of a secondary special breaker with the Greninja. Tauros has a great move pool, but other than that, not the best stats to back it up. And then Claydol's there as a rocker spinner, but doesn't really do that too well. And then it's a Levitator, which helps out with the Coco and the Excadrill, both being weak to ground as well as Arcanine. But the rock weakness isn't too big, which is nice. But what I kind of see is once this team's defensive pieces go down, then it's kind of all downhill. Like, the synergy with Coco Lucha is great. Excadrill is an Excadrill. You always want one. But not quite the greatest. Once the defense goes down, it kind of all crumbles from there. You have some momentum to use with the Coco, Lucha, and Greninja into your other threats that want to take the hit, but most of the time what's taking the hit is the Mega Venusaur, and that thing might even want to run offensive, and then you got nothing to take hits, and you're just going to be trying to play for trades the entire game, which isn't quite optimal. Up next, number 9, we got my team, the Chicago Beartics. Yeah, so my team, I kind of know it pretty well. Ton of breakers, just not really anything, no momentum to get the breakers in. So it's going to be playing for trades. Avalugg is really the only defensive mon as well. Throw kind of is defensive, but and Steelix, those are all, but there isn't really a special wall here, which kind of hurts my team. DNC can obviously be pretty bulky pre-mega. That thing is still quad weak to steel, although there isn't a hidden power, it's still kind of annoying. So just not having a special wall or too much U-turn, I feel like, is holding my team back. Toxtricity is really the only reliable option with Volt Switch, but it doesn't even want to run that most of the time because it wants to be able to set itself up and then stabs and then either Boom Burst to hit neutrally or Sword Power sometimes, but maybe Volt Switch. But other than that, nothing too great. Hazard control is fine. Got some great rockers in Mega Diancie, Garchomp, and Steelix. Got some great removal in Starmie, Honchkrow, and Avalugg. And then Kartana, if it wants, can run removal. But Kartana, Mega Diancie, Garchomp, all great breakers. Predominantly physical, but Mega Diancie can run special. Toxtricity is a great special breaker. Same with Starmie and Chandelure. Just no way to get them in safely. So it's going to be a lot of playing for trades, which, just like the previous team, isn't quite the most reliable option to win games. And up next, we got the Vegas Corviknights. I respect the Celesteela pick. Don't like it. It's Celesteela. I don't think anyone likes it other than maybe the person who has Celesteela. but even then, you don't really like it. Mega Swampert, I don't really think fits the team. It is good, but it doesn't have any rain set out for it, so it has to set its own rain pretty much. Gengar is nice and fast as a breaker, pretty great move pool, great Scarfer, also can run Nasty Plot. Noivern, solid Dragon along with Celesteela and Florges to form a great Fairy Dragon Steel Core. Great Scarf or Spexer, great Heavy Duty Boots Defogger. And so that's kind of where Noivern fits in with this team. And then Uxie, another pretty solid Mon. Got it has Stealth Rocks, and you can get pretty creative with Uxie. It's fairly defensive, but it still has stats that allow it to run offense pretty well, as well as Virizion. And Virizion, I like it. Its stats aren't the greatest offensively, but it has some nice special defense, and it can set up on either side with Swords Dance or with Calm Mind. And it has a decent move pool with Grass and Fighting. Stabs, those are pretty nice, and then some good physical coverage in Mega Horn, Zen Headbutt, Stone Edge, and special coverage with Air Slash, which are all pretty solid. But other than that, the defensive synergy is good. The speed tiers are decent. It's a pretty well-rounded team, but some support could be better, and then there's also some common weaknesses shared among members that isn't quite the greatest. And up next, number 7, Pittsburgh Steelix. This team, I really like it. The one main drawback on it is that the speed tiers are kind of condensed around 100 with Mega Medicham, Victini, Tornadus, and Incarnates around there. Serperiors just a little bit faster, Togedemaru same. But and then also Mega Medicham and Victini sharing that Psychic typing. But still, Psychic is a great type. Ever since Gen 1, it's been great. They've tried to nerf it, but it hasn't quite worked out. It's still solid. Grabbing Druddigon, which is one of the best Victini counters, is also really smart in my opinion. Crobat was a hot commodity among League because it's great at being either fast offensive or like a more bulkier offensive, like defogging role. With heavy duty boots, it got much better. Milotic is always really good as just a fat water type that likes to sit there and take hits and can recover it all off. Serperior likes it's great because of that contrary ability with Leaf Storm. You get pretty much a free 130 base power move, and you turn that drawback into upside. So even though its special attack stat isn't the greatest, it'll get buffed up. There isn't really too much of a move pool to help it out, but other than that, not really sure. And then Vivian, not really sure what that thing is doing, to be honest, but I guess it's there. It can help out maybe. So, on to number 6, we got the Barton Boltunds. And this is where I feel like the teams have gotten like really good, like much scarier. Like the bottom teams weren't bad, but these teams are just really good. Megalopunny post DLC is great, even though it doesn't have return. Oftentimes it doesn't even need it. U-turn, close combat, play rough, elemental punch doesn't quite need return. Zapdos is a mon that everyone likes because it's just a fat electric flying type. Got access to heavy duty boots, which is nice. It can now roost off damage. In addition, it got access to Hurricane as a special flying type move, which helps it out a lot. Silvally can just run any type, which this team likes because it can do what it needs to help out. Blastoise is great as a Shell Smasher, just go in. Same with Turtonator, double Shell Smash, but that kind of invites some people to maybe want to try to steal boosts or run Haze to get rid of it, and then you're left with your Blastoise and your Turtonator, which are otherwise average to below average mons. Umbreon's a great Wish Passer, just fat, spams Toxic, Foul Play, but other than that, just sits there, takes hits. Gloom is more bulky than Vileplume, but it does have to give up that item slot to Eviolite, even though it's pretty solid as a grass poison type. Azelf, really nice, fast, psychic, hits hard. Slurpuff as kind of a sticky Webber is really nice, also can just belly drum with Citrus Berry and then Unburdened, go crazy. Registeel I really like as a defensive mon. Got access to body press this generation, which really helps it. It's no longer just like, yeah, you can set up a free substitute if you have 404 or more HP, because now it can break them with body press. And obviously Mimikyu is really solid, even though that disguise ability did get nerfed. It is still able to just hit hard, and even though once its disguise gets broken, it'll be taking damage, it's still free hit. No matter what's happening, it's just going to take 12.5% and kind of just shrug it off. And then, like, great Shadow Sneak priority if it gets set up. But other than that, just a pretty solid team. And up next, we got Team Liquidation, coached by Vini. Yeah, Vinny got a really scary team this year, and he's a great battler, which means that this team has the right makings to be at number one. And that's kind of where, like, these top 6 teams, I feel like all of them have a great shot at making championship and making playoffs for sure. Mega Manectric kind of sucks because Hidden Power is gone, but it's still great. It has 3 moves. It has Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, and Fire move, but it clicks them all pretty well. Infernape, one of the most versatile draft mons. It can run physical, special, more defensive with Stealth Rock, Nasty Plot to set up and be special, or it can be physical with like Choice Band, Iron Fist sets. Alakazam, one of the best revenge killers in the game, if not the best revenge killer. With Magic Guard, you're almost 100% sure that your Focus Sash is going to stay intact unless they're running some, I don't know, unless you decide to switch in on it. But even then, you can just come in and revenge. Crocodile, great physical mon with Moxie, and also great support with Intimidate. Great rocker, also a great scarfer. Appleton, really fat, kind of negates its ice weakness a little bit with the thick fat ability, and has is able to resist fire even though it is a grass type because of thick fat. Great recover, Leech Seed Stallymon also with its move Apple Acid. It lowers the special defense, which is nice for the Mega Manectric and for the Alakazam if they would have trouble breaking something and maybe forces something to switch out. Braviary, I feel like has kind of rose up a little bit in Gen 8. It's a strong mon. Access to agility to boost its speed, bulk up to boost its attacking stats, and then normal flying stab, and then fighting coverage is all pretty solid. Has a rocks weakness, which isn't really bad because this team isn't weak to rocks. Klefki is a great support mon, just does what it does really well. And then Regirock defense is at 200, which means that its body presses are going to be insanely powerful. Dusclops, really just another great, like, Klefki plus Dusclops might be one of the best supporting combos in the league, with the abilities of Dusclops to just sponge hits and then give back statuses or mementos or like Trick Room up, although this team doesn't really need it unless they're going for like an Appleton sweep. But Klefki also can set Thunder Waves, can set Screen, and that also helps out. And then Manaphy, if that thing gets in and then gets a tail glow up, it could be just game from there. Base 100 in every stat means that it's going to be pretty bulky, tough to break through. But other than that, doesn't really do too many things. So, yeah, this team's pretty solid, and with Vinny's battling ability, I'm sure we're going to see it in playoffs, maybe even in the championship. And up next, we got the Rochester Rayquazas, another great team. Mega Mawile is insanely powerful, has more attack stat than anything else in the game, with the huge power ability. Also 9 resistances is pretty helpful. Steel plus Fairy Stab is also really strong with Dart coverage. Hydreigon, this thing has every coverage move in the game. I think it misses out on 4 or 5 typing, so it can really just do what you need it to do. Can set up especially with Nasty Plot physically, as well as speed with Dragon Dance, which are both helpful. It can also just run Scarf spec sets where you don't really need to think as much. Grimmsnarl is at its best in drafts, in my opinion, because you can just run it how it wants to be run, either as a screen setter if you need that week, or as a setup mon, either physically or specially. Just does what you need it to do every week. One of the most reliable mons that can come every week and do something different. Roserade really helps out setting T-spikes and spikes, as well as just being a nice especially bulky mon, which really helps out Clouds' team. Vaporeon is just a fat water absorb. Of course, it seems everyone has one of those nowadays. Corviknights, again with toxic spikes, pretty helpful. Knockoff is solid support, body press, hits hard with that 145 base defense. Normally it wouldn't have anything to really hit too hard. Then Toxic can help it as a support mon. Musharna, not really sure what it does too well in my opinion. I'm not 100% on it. But the next mon, Cinderace, great, fast at 119 speed with Court Change makes it the best hazard remover in the game. Just the best hazard control. Clouds doesn't need to run hazards, and it kind of forces the opponent to not really even want to run hazards, because why would you want to set hazards only to basically just get them back on your side? Also just pretty strong. Pyro Ball is a great signature move. It'll hit 90% of the time, but it'll only feel like 50% of the time, trust me. And High Jump Kick, same thing. 90% accuracy, missing 50% of the time, but they're strong moves. Cinderace has strong moves. Thankfully, it doesn't have the Barrow ability, which would just make it overpowered. Landorus Incarnate, same thing. Defog plus Stealth Rock is really solid. I have a Cinderace and Landorus Incarnate in another league. They're a great combination together. And along with Raikou, that's another fast mon. Access to Scald now. Aura Sphere, you can run it. Aura Sphere with any nature now. You don't need to be Rash, I believe, is what it was with Aura Sphere. Now you can run any nature. And then Archeops is really strong. It does kind of get forgotten about because of that defeatist ability kind of ruining its viability. But other than that, the speed tiers are great. A nice amount of U-turn / volt switch, which allows it to get into its setters. Screens, T-Spike, Spikes, Wish, Healing Wish, Heal Bell, Trick Room, all support options. Although it doesn't really have too many wall breakers outside of the Mawile and the Hydreigon. Defensive synergy isn't that strong. Not the greatest rockers, because Landorus and Archeops don't really want to run it, but you can just rely on your opponent giving you rocks for free. Up next at number 3, we got the New York Blazikens. Mega Aggron is really nice with body press now, plus the filter ability means it's really hard to break as just a pure steel type. So you kind of have to resort on special moves, but if this thing runs like specially bulky sets, then it's almost impossible to break. Clef, same thing. Really great this gen with the teleport buff plus wish support means that the entire team is going to be staying healthy for the entire time, along with Goodra. And this thing forms like a nice special wall to balance with Mega Aggron as kind of just a great Fairy Dragon Steel Core. Goodra's moveset is very wide. It can do a lot of things that it wants to do. Gooey ability is pretty interesting. Same thing. Sap Sipper is pretty helpful because that balances out with the Gastrodon, because the Gastrodon kind of acts as a way, or maybe calls for grass moves that Goodra can then switch into and take and get buffed with it. Sap Sipper, Blaziken, I love the mascot pick. Got access to close combat and U-turn, both pretty solid moves. Can't run speed boost thankfully, but it's still a great Scarfer. Maybe substitute Flame Charge, that could be a cool set. Has Excelgor, my favorite mon. I love it in draft. It can spikes, T-spikes, Final Gambit if you just want to get rid of something. I've had that help me come in clutch. Like I had a bunch of mons that just like couldn't deal with it. I thought they would be led, so I just lead Excelgor, Final Gambit, boom, you're just playing a 5-on-5, nice easy battle. Zebstrika, the speed is kind of concentrated in the low tiers, which makes it almost unreliable, but still pretty solid. Zebstrika, limited move pool, not really sure what it wants to do. Mew, most versatile mon in the game. It's almost impossible to prep for Mew, and it can run offensively because it has Mega Aggron, Clefable, and Goodra to sit behind as defensive things. Donphan, great hazard removal. Priority and Ice Shard also really helps out and just hits hard with Earthquake. Delmise, Another great piece of hazard removal. Also really likes that rapid spin buff because now after 2 rapid spins it can get pretty quick. And then the Muck is another pretty solid defensive mon, but can also hit hard. Pretty great move pool there too, kind of forgotten about, but Muck is just a solid mon. And so now, top 2 teams. These teams are both really strong. I would love to see a finals between these 2 teams. At number 2, the SF Deltas, Mega Gardevoir, Dragapult, and they complement each other so well. Mega Gardevoir and Dragapult allows Dragapult to run physical sets more freely because Mega Gardevoir is just an insanely powerful special breaker, and then they can always just fall back on a Gliscor wall. With Toxic Heal plus Protect, that thing is pretty much healing off 25% like every 2 turns, but it'll feel like every 1 turn because of Protect. Moltres, great with heavy duty boots, means that once that Stealth Rock weakness is now almost alleviated, and now you just have a fast or middling speed but hitting hard special mon. Mienshao is great piece of regenerator plus momentum, hits really hard and doesn't even need to be in a regenerator core to just do what it wants. U-turn, heal itself up, and do good chip. Sneasel, nice and fast, hitting hard. With great priority. Knockoff users, really nice as well. Regigigas now has access to Protect to basically run down the clock on its slow start a little bit quicker, and so that helps it out a lot as well. Scizor is nice. With no hidden power fire, it's much harder to find something to kill it with, so that's something that really helps it out a lot. Rotom Wash, only weak to grass unless there's like a Mold Breaker mon, which still, they're not on every team, which means that it's pretty much most of the time only weak to grass. Nidoking, again, one of the most versatile mons in draft, can run rocks, life orb sets, great pivot options really on the team, and then strong things to capitalize on the pivot. And there's also a great defensive synergy. The only thing that's really holding the team back from being number 1 is there kind of aren't too many stealth rockers outside of the Gliscor, and then there kind of aren't too many too much support for the team to kind of just let it be one of the strongest teams. Like no sticky web support, which this team doesn't quite need, but could encounter a lot of Scarfers coming to try to outspeed the Dragapult, and you might feel like you're gonna have to run Scarf like middle speed mons to be able to outspeed those. But other than that, it's a great team. And at number 1, we got the Sexual Sex Havers. The just great team. Mega Scizor, Latios is a great combination right there. With the removal of Hidden Power Fire, Mega Scizor now has like maybe we were on the verge of maybe banning it, but then it just fell to Phil pretty much. Rotom Heat is a great pairing with Mega Scizor and Latios. It's kind of just a very tanky mon that can just click Volt Switch out. It can be specs, it can be heavy duty boost with Defog, one of the greatest mons. Seismitoad, great Dracovish answer, but after that, weak with Dracovish, it still is a pretty solid mon. Not really going to be running with Rain, even though the team kind of has a few things that might signal a little bit of Rain with Seismitoad and Tornadus, means that like Seismitoad might want to manually set Rain 1 week, and then Swift Swim. Drapion, great T-Spiker, knockoff, and it's surprisingly fast at 95 base speed. Miltank, this thing is tanky. We all remember Whitney's Miltank. Although it might not be that powerful in draft, it's still annoying with the thick fat and just solid defense. Stealth Rock is really helpful. Volbeat, forgot it existed, not gonna lie, not the greatest mon. Tornadus Therian, again, just a really strong special breaker with Regenerator, so it has great momentum, along with the Mega Scizor and the Rotom, and just momentum into this Doug trio as well. And Dugtrio can just trap things that the other mons might have trouble dealing with. It's great at trapping fire types, which might want to come in and kill the Mega Scizor, but they can't anymore because now they're trapped and they're stuck. Great speed tiers with the team at 121, 120, 110, 195, 86. Pretty solid fast mons. And it is a very well-rounded, cohesive team coming in. Great offense, great defense, pretty good synergy. The real con here is, in addition to Volbeat, change your name, please. But other than that, great team. So this is a really, I feel like this number 1 team, if we look at the number 16 team, it's better, but not by too much, which is going to lead to an interesting season. A lot of it is going to come down to coach skill, which power rankings obviously do not reflect. So until next time, Jesse504, out.